I was going through a box and I found my children's books, or books from when I was a kid. A lot of them are beat up and messed up. They've had a rough life, kind of like me. But anyways, I think I got pretty much most of them. I don't know how that happened. Sometimes there were grown-ups who wanted to give my shit away when I was a kid. But somehow I managed to keep my children's books. I kind of got them in order of the ones that are the most used, like bedtime story books from when I was a little kid. Got the first one here, Hickory Dickory, right? Peter Rabbit, Hansel and Gretel. That's kind of a tough one. Bread and Jam for Francis. I remember these being bedtime stories. My mom, for a very small window of time in my childhood, there was some reading of these books, these same books here. It didn't last long. My mom and dad didn't really want to live that kind of life, being parents and all that. They only had one kid, but, they had other things going on, like screaming and hollering and flipping over tables and running around having drama. But anyways, still got these books. Clifford Gets a Job, Sammy the White House Mouse, the Yogi Bear in the Colorado River, Barba Papa, I Know an Old Lady. These were all ones that got read the most as bedtime stories. How Spider Saved Halloween, Jack Sprat, The Great Pigeon Race, Bugs Bunny Goes to the Dentist, Me and the Bee. I think that was a book that they put your name in. Georgie and the Robbers. And then we get into some other books that were kind of like bigger books that were not really bedtime stories as much, a little bit. And this is a book I bought as a kid. What is it? 7 Arrows. I think this is kind of a book of Indian religion. It's got a lot of pictures in it. I think I got this from a bookstore in Jasper. This book here, Cowboys Don't Cry. I'm sure there's a million books that have that title. That's kind of a famous title, probably used a lot. But anyways, this book here was interesting to me when I was a kid. Been a long time since I read it. So the character is named Shane, and his dad is a drunk. And you can see on the cover in the background there's a Ford F-150 pickup truck. It's blue. The old man had a Ford F-150, a 78, a blue pickup like that. Now this is a story about rodeo. Now I don't believe in rodeo. I didn't have any feelings about it when I had this book as a kid, but I'm all for banning rodeo. But anyways, the story is his dad is I think a drunk and jackass, and he has to put up with it. And I forget exactly how it goes, but anyways, this book here is one that I had an attachment to when I was a kid. I guess early teens, maybe 12, 13. I'm not sure what age I got this book. Quite a few years ago now, I had a little email exchange with Marilyn Halverson, the writer of these books, and I mentioned to her that I had this book and what it was, and I think she told me that this was they made one run of these hardcover books with this picture. Most of them, I think, have a different picture, and this was the best one. This was the best looking book of the various prints that they made. So I have the hardcover with the best looking picture on the front, and I like it too. It's got the kid who sort of looked like me, and the dad who's, you know, an a-hole, and the truck in the background, and so yeah. So I'm glad to have that particular version of that book. And then around 11, I would guess, around age 9 or 10, I got this Tom Sawyer book from from a bookstore in Jasper. Right after I got it, the pages started falling out, and my mom wanted to take it back, and I was like, nah, I kind of wanted to keep it because, like, no, this one's mine, even though the pages are falling out. The Tom Sawyer book made a big impression on me at that age. It was quite an impression, a sentiment, a feeling. Yeah, the Tom Sawyer world seems like a pretty good place for a boy to live. And his story kind of mirrors my story. I say some people might scoff at this, but I kind of feel like my time as a child, that time zone in years, was about the last chance for a kid to be anything like a Tom Sawyer or a Huck Finn in the modern America. You know what I mean? Right after, I mean, the walls were closing in at that point when I was a kid growing up. But now, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, there's things I did when I was a kid that I didn't think anything about. I ran around barefooted. I wasn't, completely wild and on the loose, but I walked around with a BB gun. I don't know, can kids walk around with a BB gun now without being mowed down by a SWAT team or or sent off to a re-education camp, or it's that kind of shit. A kid draws a picture of a gun in a classroom, and next thing a cop's body slamming them on the floor and this kind of shit. We've been hearing these stories for 20 years. So the chance to be a boy of any free will, I think the window closed with my childhood, my era of childhood. Now there's probably a lot of pockets around the country that are out, but as far as any place that's a little bit domesticated, I think the window closed with my age group, my generation. I think beyond that, it's just been a police state shit show. Yeah, they wouldn't allow a kid to be a Tom Sawyer or a Huck Finn these days. He'd be shot, pepper sprayed, beaten, hauled off to a home or a prison or something by the gloating, grinning cops. Yeah, America went to shit. It's kind of gone. It's just a police state now. I mean, it kind of always was. I mean, it was a police state already during the Civil War in the 1860s. But in the private realm, you could still be a kid. You could still be whatever. So the Tom Sawyer book, and the thing about Tom Sawyer, in my life, all the grown-ups around me were mean, nasty, kind of weirdos of varying degrees. Same thing with Tom Sawyer. All the grown-ups around him, crabby old ladies, snitching half-brother, my oldest cousin, my slightly younger cousin, the one closest to my age. He had that habit when he was a kid. He'd snitch on me to his old man, who loved to be a shithead to me. Yeah, it was that whole. So when I read Tom Sawyer, I was like, sort of saw myself in him, I guess. His circumstances seemed to be a lot like mine. Now, when you get into, this is my Huck Finn book. It had a equally deep impression on me. One of the more controversial books in American history here. But anyways, Huck Finn, his dad was a drunk, twisted jackass. My dad, a drunk, twisted jackass who didn't look out for me. Huck's dad didn't look out for him. And Huck wanted to get away. Boy, I wanted to get away. When I was that age, 10, 11, 12, man, I wanted to run away so bad. I didn't do it because I never, even though there was a part of my imagination that said, yeah, you can do it, there was also this piece of reality that angered me and said, well, how would that work out? How could that? You're going to run away? You're going to hop on a boat on the river and take off? Well, how's that going to work? So, yeah, it wouldn't work other than, a short-lived adventure and probably be in some kind of trouble and drama after that. But Huck Finn, he ran away, and in my mind at least, I don't know if I wore it on the outside much, but in my mind, the persona of Huck Finn kind of was in my mind. I'm gonna do a separate video on the Huck Finn book, because this is getting up here in about close to 15 minutes already. So I'm gonna do a separate video and talk about the Huck Finn book. There is I think I know what Mark Twain was after with this book, what he was doing. But anyways, these are my more heavily read children's books. There were others, I guess, but these are the ones that were the bedtime stories, and then of course the ones the last 4 or 5 or 6 here were not really bedtime stories, but they were intermediate to older childhood books.